Hi there, I'm John Mancini. I run the Industry Watch program for AIIM. And so I'd like to give you a little bit of context for our most recent Industry Watch study, which is focused on incorporating intelligent capture in your digital transformation strategy. So when you start with digital transformation in terms of its importance to organization, clearly almost 80% of organizations see this as a key element in their plans moving forward. And as they deal with transformation, as they think about it, as they try to figure out what to do, they're confronted with a huge volume of incoming information, going from X to 4.2X in just the next 2 years. And to make this even more confounding for organizations, over 60% of this information is unstructured, in other words, content, unmanaged information that doesn't fit neatly into the rows and columns of the database. And so that points to a new strategic importance for capture, and particularly for what I call intelligent capture. So as we look at through these 4 best practices, I want to keep you in mind that a starting point, this is best practice number 1, is that there are a lot of different places where organizations are currently at in terms of their capture program. Some organizations are starting with paper, and we'll see that in a minute. And others are much further on the journey in terms of the application of machine learning. So identifying that starting place and optimizing it and landing and expanding is really the first best practice. These data points show a number of things about capture. The first one shows the continued importance of paper for many organizations, a problem that some organizations thought went away. Second one points to this idea that capture has moved forward in the process, to the start of the process rather than an afterthought. And then the third one points to the fact that intelligent capture needs definition in organizations. Organizations need education about what it means. Capture for many organizations is still a scan to archive process, when it really is much more now than it ever was before, positioned at the beginning of the process, a strategic enabler to all the processes that come after that. When you think about this in terms of more advanced technologies, AI and machine learning, people see that critically important to their future. People see the tie between intelligent capture and digital transformation. And people understand that intelligent capture, as kind of the flip side, is also important to those artificial intelligence and machine learning plans. So machine learning plays a role in intelligent capture, and intelligent capture also facilitates artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Best practice number 2, I think, is kind of a familiar one for folks that have been in the enterprise space for a long time, which is that you have to talk about this capability in terms of problems to be solved rather than just technologies to be deployed. And I think that's really the key to intelligent capture becoming more of a strategic concern rather than an afterthought. So a couple of data points to think about in terms of problems that are prevalent in organization. So this top one up here, 72% say easy integration of capture technologies with line of business applications is a problem. Turning unstructured content into actionable data. And that's what I mean by having intelligent capture facilitates machine learning. You can't have machine learning if you don't have data that's comprehensible by machines. And so intelligent capture plays a key role in that. And then going back to that question of information chaos, you can see these bottom 2 data points. The variety and the volume of information is really a stumbling block for organizations. And so how does capture help solve those particular problems? And so best practice number 3, as you define those problems, I would urge organizations to look down on downstream. And what I mean by that is that how you capture information as it comes into the organization has far-reaching implications downstream in your business processes in terms of the amount of manual work that you will have to deal with later on. And so as you think about the 3 most urgent automated document processing challenges in your organization. Number 1 is having to work with different processes and systems, try to figure out a common front end to multiple back ends. That's a big problem. This question of manually classifying and routing documents, still a big problem that intelligent capture can help with. Receiving documents from all sorts of diverse channels is a challenge. So all of these point to the incredible urgency of moving capture to the front end of the business process and automating it as much as possible. That's what intelligent capture is. When you think about the top three departments that could benefit from this, finance, clearly, that's a traditional area in which document management and workflow has been applied. Things like accounts payable and accounts receivable and invoice processing, things like that. Clearly, a place that could benefit from intelligent capture. Records and information management, that's kind of an interesting one. That, I think, to me, points to the rising desire to automate governance, that this is something that can't be done manually anymore. And intelligent capture facilitates that. And then you get into questions like operations and IT and services, clearly areas in which intelligent capture delivers huge value to organizations. When you think about this data point, this is really an interesting one. When I talk about downstream processing and this idea that, what happens to an error? What happens to, kind of a field has not been completed, there's a signature missing. If you don't identify that at the front end, then what you have is you deal with that later on as an exception. And so identifying that at the front end becomes a really important consideration when you think about intelligent capture. So the last best practice I want to talk about is to really take a hard look, particularly for organizations that have been on this journey before, is to look at the capabilities of your current capture solutions and make sure they are positioned to the era of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Because the challenges that we had in the scan to archive era, or even the scan to process era, are not the same ones as what I would call kind of scan to intelligence era that's coming downstream. And so as you think about this, organizations clearly are looking ahead. 64% say they're looking at their next significant intelligent capture project in the next year. That's a pretty compelling data point when you think about how serious people are taking this challenge. When you think about how people are currently viewing intelligent capture capabilities, what you can see if you look to the right of the little gray bar, you look at the people that have significant problems still in some of these core areas on the left-hand side, which are kind of core characteristics of capture. And you think about, at least a third to 40 to 50% still have challenges with regard to those capabilities. And that's what intelligent capture can help address. One thing to keep in mind, this might be more relevant to the sell side of the equation, is how are users trying to buy this? And you can see that this mirrors what's going on with SaaS applications, with cloud applications. People are clearly trying to buy this capability as a solution rather than a technology. They're trying to buy it by the drink rather than by the gallon, and they're trying to buy it as operating expense rather than capital expense. And then lastly, I think as you think about intelligent capture, as you think about areas in which you're trying to automate, you come back to this data point, which has been the case for quite some time in this industry, and which intelligent capture can really help address. And so what this is all about is that when you ask people how much of a challenge semi-structured and unstructured information represents in your efforts to automate, and again, go back, information growing from X to 4.2X, 60% of that being unstructured or semi-structured in nature. And then you think about how much of a challenge that represents to what the end game really is, which is automation. And you can see clearly for 50, 60%, this is a challenge or a huge challenge. And that really ultimately is what intelligent capture is all about. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I'd like to thank the sponsors of our report, without whose help we wouldn't be able to offer this information to the AIIM community for free. So thanks so much, and make sure you check out their offerings.